to any other creature, they were not even willing to nod. They spoke one at a time, deliberately and with many motions, then fell silent, listened without looking at their companion. They were of a copper color, and proud of it, referred to Europeans as ugly whites, were lighter than their Indian neighbors, the Creeks and Choctaws and Iroquois. They were lithe, tall, erect, without noticeable deformities. Their spoken language was musical, punctuated by guttural, breathy breaks. The men enjoyed ball games, hunting, and warfare. Indeed, warfare was their favorite activity, and occupied much of each winter. They were a clean people when compared to the white English, German, and Scots-Irish settlers drifting in, infiltrating their territory, most of whom were satisfied to bathe in autumn, and not again till spring. The Indians went to water often, considering water, the sun, and fire to be three holy gifts of the Great Spirit. The Cherokees were polite, except that the men, particularly the young, were easily offended and quick to react, often violently, and whiskey made many of the men argumentative and testy. Women were not supposed to drink. The maidens were particularly appealing for whites as well as for Indians. Louis-Philippe, while Duke of Orleans, later he was King of the French, travelled to the Cherokee country in 1797. He remarked that there are several of these Indian women who are very pretty, and I was very struck by the coquettishness of their manners. It is an entirely different kind than their neighbours, and they could hardly have been taught better by French women. He noticed that a guide, when the fathers or husbands had their heads turned, barely concealed his games with the wives or daughters, and they were so little bashful that one of them, who was lying down, put her hand in my presence, on his trousers, and said to him with a disdainful air, "Ah, sick!" He described a group of women picking berries as disclosing their beauties to the fluttering breeze, and bathing their limbs in the cool, flitting stream. A Cherokee woman had more rights and power than European women. She decided whom she would marry, and the man built a house for her, which was considered her property, or else he came to her or her mother's house to live. The house and children were hers. She and her brothers reared them. If she bore too many children, or if a child were deformed, she had the right to kill the unwanted infant. Should the father kill one, he would be guilty of murder. To obtain a divorce, she packed her husband's clothes in a bag and set it outside her door. She was free to marry someone else, and so was he. Many divorces occurred, many remarriages. A system of serial monogamy developed, and adultery was common, even though frowned upon. The Cherokees, unlike most tribes, did not generally enforce laws against it. One exception in the 1700s was an incident in which the men of a village arranged to make an example of an annoyingly promiscuous woman. In the woods near the town, 30 males persuaded her to consent in series. The year was 1771. When the Cherokee woman lay down to bear a baby, she did not know that the child she was about to deliver was to be a leader, a chief among his people. It was for her a fond hope, a dear hint of a promise. Mothers were allowed to suspect as much. The house in which this particular mother lived, in which she lay down on a reed bed to deliver, was made of saplings tied to corner posts, with plaster inside and outside. The house had an earthen floor. In the middle of the roof was a smoke hole for the fire. The place was the town of Hiwassee, on the Hiwassee River at Savannah Ford, located in territory then claimed by the state of North Carolina, sooner or later to be formed into the state of Tennessee. The river was a brawling torrent off the west slope of one of the highest mountain